Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. Sorry we're a little late. Trying to expand time. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी राधा जय कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन यशोदानंदना जय व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यमुना तीरवनचारी यमुना तीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Mama Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पश्चाद्यादेशकारिणे। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Our topic for today is expanding time. Thank you for giving your time to come. Hopefully you'll leave with more time. This is the one program which you should leave with more time. So I thought actually I won't spend too long speaking. I know this morning we had a class and we could take some questions. And perhaps you have questions on this topic. So we can, and maybe say a few things. My realizations, whatever meager realizations I have, expanding time. So yes, as we know, time is a very, very precious commodity. Chanakya Pandit says, Ayusha Kshana Ekopi Nalabhya Swarna Koti Di. Kshana Ekopi, even one moment of time, Nalabhya, you can't get it back. Swarna Koti Di, even if you have millions of gold coins. And therefore, practically everything you can get back in the world, but the one thing you can't get back is time. And practically everyone feels, most people in their life feel that they are falling short of having enough time. We all wish there was another hour in the day, another day in the week, another week in the month, and another month in the year. And like this, time is moving us all along. Once I was on some kirtan of distribution and one man walked past. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm a monk." He said, "No time." And he carried on walking. I said, "But we're giving out books." He said, "No time." Then he walked further and I said, "But they're all about meditation and how to live a happier life." He said, "No time." Then he walked further and I said, "Have a good day." No time. It's an interesting point. No time to be happy. Kind of interesting point. He said it just like that, or maybe it is a little bit like that the world just pushes us on. And actually, while it's pushing us along with the demands, and the responsibilities, we forget actually what's really important. Actually, what we're trying to do in Krishna consciousness is become timeless. This is actually what the Bhagavatam says. Ayur harati vaipunsham yajnam ashtam jayanasam visharde yakshanonita uttama shloka. Every day when we wake up and we see the sun is rising, and every day when we see the sun is setting, we should understand Ayur harati. Our life is being taken away, except for the one who engages in worshipping the Supreme Person. They become timeless, actually. Because whatever they're doing now, whether they stay here or whether they leave the world, ultimately they continue doing the same thing. So you become timeless. Once we used to do this play about Yogi Yogi. So at one point in the play, the doctor, Yogi Yogi, Guru Busters, he came up to the person and he said, I will give you a mantra by which you can become self-realized. So the person said, yes, please. And then he said, but first you must give me your Rolex watch. So the person reluctantly gives his Rolex watch. And the Guru starts walking away and he said, hang on, you said I'm going to become self-realized. He said, yes, now you have become timeless. So actually, we are trying to become timeless. It is very interesting, time works in different ways. Even Einstein said that he talked about the relativity of time. We could say there are different types of time. There's clock time, the seconds and the minutes, which move. So there's the clock time, which is the time frame of the world. But then there's also biological time. Everyone's body also has its own body clock. There's an inner clock, body clock. But you can also say there's biological time. We can also say there's psychological time. When you're young, a certain time frame feels like a certain amount. When you're older, that same time frame feels different. Like when you speak to a child and you ask them how old they are, they're like, I'm 5 3/4. And like, why is 3/4 so important? Because it's just like they can't wait for that 1 year to pass. I'm going to be 6. It feels like so long from the time you're 5 to the time you're 6. And by the time you're 60, you're like, can someone stop this time? Like, why did it go so quick? It's all relativity of time. It is clock time, biological time, psychological time. But then ultimately, Shastra says the spiritual world is in Viriya, the 4th dimension, beyond time and space. And therefore, actually, in the spiritual world, there's no time. This is a very deep concept. Sometimes people ask this question, did the jiva fall from the spiritual world? One sure way to give yourself a headache, trying to answer that question. But in one article, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, he answers it very interestingly. He says that basically, if you imagine this is where we're living on the Earth planet, and there's a certain time frame, as you go higher and higher, then time dilates. That 1 day on Brahma Loka is like, whatever it is. And then he says, as you go higher and higher, you come to the point of 0 time, at the end of the material world. And then you enter into the spiritual world, where almost time functions in its own different way. So he said the problem with trying to answer this question of whether we left the spiritual world is that basically you're trying to create a narrative for a series of events that are spanning 2 different time dimensions. So then the narrative won't, you can't say, I was in the spiritual world with Krishna, and then I left, and then I met the Hare Krishna devotees, and then I, got initiated, and then I went back to Godhead. You can't map it as a linear narrative because what you're doing is your narrative is spanning 2 different time dimensions. So he makes the point that can you ever leave a place which is timeless? Yes or no? Can you leave a place that's timeless? He makes the point, if you say yes, then my next question is when? In other words, can you ever leave a place that's timeless? Well, not really. And can you ever re-enter a place that's timeless? Well, not really. So in one sense, did we leave the spiritual world? Yes. Did we not? Didn't we leave? Have we always been here? Yes. Have we always been in the spiritual world? Yes. it almost becomes inconceivable to English way to look at it. So ultimately, we're trying to get to a place of timelessness. But right now, we are living in the material world, and it's a place where time is very much active. And time is going. Our life is passing us by. Now I'm 43. That's the youth of old age, they say. I'm feeling it now. I'm still young. The youth. So it's funny how time just goes by, and we are all being moved towards our destiny. So here in the 11th universal form, and here Krishna says the famous verse that our Oppenheimer also quoted when they detonated the atom bomb for the first time. That Krishna says, I am, the destroyer of all the three worlds. When Arjun has that vision of the universe, then what does he see in the universal form? He sees all the warriors rushing in to that universal form, rushing to their destruction. But it's very interesting, two different metaphors are given in the 11th chapter. I'll just read it. This is the 28th and the 29th verse. 28th verse. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. Next verse. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So here is very incredible. Krishna gives two analogies, or Krishna displays two analogies. He says some people are meeting their death like rivers which are flowing into the ocean. That's one way in which people die. And another way is that there are moths which are rushing towards the fire and then coming to meet their destruction right there. And Baladev Vidyabhusan, when he gives the commentary on these two verses, he explains that these two distinct metaphors are given because they're describing two different types of death. The rivers to the ocean, Baladev Vidyabhusan says, represents the death of personalities like Bhishma. And the moths going into the fire represent the death of personalities like Duryodhana. And the idea is that a river, as it flows towards the ocean, as it's going towards its death, what does the river do? It produces a beautiful sound. It nourishes everyone and everything on its way. It selflessly gives itself to others, and then finally it enters into the ocean. And Baladev Vidyabhusan says this is the life of the first person who's moving towards their death. On the way to their death, they do many, many beautiful things. Whereas the moth, on the way to its death, is only concerned with its destination, doesn't concern with anyone else. In fact, moths and mosquitoes are quite a nuisance, actually. So some people on the way to their death are just in such a selfish state of mind, centered on I, me and mine, that they only see their goal, and as they move towards their seeming goal, they don't benefit or do anything of value or touch the hearts of the people around them. And this is, Baladev Vidyabhusan says, a wasted life. And then finally, when the river enters into the ocean, then it's seamless, it's very beautiful. It's like the river just comes into the ocean and it just meets. So one who dies in this world in a very spiritual way is seamless. Prabhupada said, a devotee thinks about Krishna all day, and then finally they dream about Krishna because they're serving and thinking about Krishna all day. And then what happens is they dream about Krishna, and maybe one day they don't wake up, And when they do finally open their eyes, they find themselves in the spiritual world. So it's very seamless, the way a devotee actually meets their death and makes a transition into the next life. Whereas the moth, signifying the very selfish persons, what happens when they meet with their death is like the moth going into the fire. Sometimes, I don't know if you have that here, I used to be in many ISKCON kitchens where they used to have this electric, you know that thing? It's like an electric grill, and it catches all the flies. You know that one? I think that wasn't so much in line with our principles somehow. Maybe it was health and safety. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know that one, and then, you know, now and again you just hear like zzz, 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 and you think like, my God, moths to the fire, like this is like... So it's like that. When the moth meets its death, it's like destruction. They lose everything. People, when they leave this world, sometimes it's so traumatic for them because they have to leave everything behind. And we become so attached. And it's a very painful transition. So like this, in these verses, Krishna is explaining to us different ways in which we can progress towards our ultimate departure from this world, and how we can ultimately make that departure very, very beautiful. But we still have a whole life to live before we depart from this world. And we want to do so many things for Krishna. We have so many desires. But sometimes it feels like we just don't have enough time. So very quickly, let me just share with you a few sutras of time that I have kind of meditated on and to some extent experienced the truth of in my life. And maybe they will give you some food for thought, and then I'll open up for questions. The first sutra of time that I want to share with you is that when time is utilized, then time expands. This is very, very beautiful. Someone may say, I don't have time, I don't have time. But one very, very mystical thing we see in Krishna consciousness is that if one lives their life in such a way that they don't waste any time. You may say, I don't have much time. That's okay. But the time that you do have, are you utilizing it? If one ensures in their life that they don't waste any time, then what you will actually begin to see is that Krishna begins to open up more windows of time. Because Krishna is time, and Krishna controls everything. So why will Krishna not give you more time? But Krishna will only give you more time if he knows that you will utilize it appropriately. And therefore, devotee doesn't waste any time. Like they say, there's only 3 people who can't sleep at night. The bhogi, the rogi, and the yogi. A bhogi, one who's trying to enjoy this world, someone who has so many material desires, they can't sleep at night because they're thinking of all their desires, or they're thinking someone's going to cheat them, or they're thinking someone's going to take their money, or they're thinking, so many anxieties. So the bhogi can't sleep at night. Rogi means a sick person. Sick person cannot sleep at night. Something is keeping them awake, some malfunction in the body. And the only other person who can't sleep at night is the yogi, the one who is spiritually desirous. One time Prabhupada was going to sleep and he said, now I feel like I'm simply wasting time. So actually, it's not that we should now become like self-destructive in our sleeping habits. And Prabhupada also said, if you sleep too much, you become lazy. And if you sleep too less, you become crazy. Or is it the other way around? Yeah, that's that way around. But actually, to not waste time. Actually, I was on the way here, I was speaking about one of our devotees at the Mana, Mother Kalangana. She was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she served Radha Gokulananda for many, many years. She made Radha Gokulananda's Mangalarti sweets.
And that's what she did. And they were really the best Mangalarti sweets. I'm not just saying that because I'm from the manor. They were really the best. And she used to hand paint those Mangalarti sweets. But I was mentioning in the car that she would wake up every morning and do those sweets, but she wouldn't go into the kitchen to cook for Krishna until she had chanted her 16 rounds. So oftentimes I'd be coming back from a program something past midnight, and she'd be waking up. So it's like, and I also used to remember that verse from the Gita, what is the night for the materialist is the time of awakening for the introspective sage. So I felt felt a bit like that. Anyway, so yes, and then finally in her final days at the manor, she was passing away from the world, and I remember we went to see her. And so one devotee asked her and said, are you not scared of death? And she said something which was, it always stayed with me. She said, no, I'm not scared of death. She said, because in my life, I never wasted any time. Therefore, I know Srila Prabhupada will come to help me. So I thought that was very nice. Like at the end of your life, if you can say that, Krishna, I wasn't perfect, I wasn't amazing, I didn't do anything extraordinary for your movement, but I didn't waste any time. I tried whatever energy and time you gave me, I tried to serve. If one can say that they don't waste any time, then that's a very glorious life. So the first sutra I offer you today is, when time is utilized, time expands. The second one I want to give you is that when desire deepens, then capacity increases. What you will find is that when your desire to serve becomes deeper and deeper, then what will actually happen is Krishna will give you more and more capacity to do more things in the same amount of time. You'll begin to see that actually, sometimes you meet these devotees in our movement who are just doing so much. And it's like, sometimes you look at them and you think like, how can you do so much? Like, how can you fit it all into the day? And the sutra is that when your desire deepens, then your capacity increases. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj actually said this. He said, when one's desire to serve is so great that one goes beyond their capacity, but they continue on without hesitation, at that moment empowerment occurs. Because what Krishna does is Krishna starts getting involved and saying your desire is so deep, then I will give you a special capacity to transcend whatever limitations may be there. And so when we have the desire to serve, when we have the desire to do something, and that desire has to be exhibited through our actions, and when Krishna sees that, then what Krishna actually does is he gives us more capacity. So that's the second sutra I'll offer you. The third sutra is, don't compartmentalize life, but rather look at how to integrate your life. So instead of saying we're going to kill two birds with one stone, we'll say we'll liberate two birds with one samosa. In other words, instead of trying to see different, like try to compartmentalize your life. This is my material life, this is my spiritual life, this is what I do for a living, this is what I do to connect with Krishna. The most effective devotees, what they begin to do in their life is they begin to integrate everything. In other words, they try to bring Krishna, they try to factor in the Krishna element into all aspects of their life. And therefore, what happens is that every aspect of their life then starts to contribute towards their spiritual aspirations. This is what Krishna tells Arjuna to do. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanu smarayudhya cha. Krishna says it's not sequential. Do your duty, finish everything, and then once you're finished, remember me. Sometimes we think of it as sequential, but actually, Krishna says, do it in an integrated way. Ma manusmara, remember me. And at the same time, yudhya cha, and at the same time, fight. So, what we have to begin doing in our life is start to create a very, very integrated life. That means try to integrate your career, try to integrate your family life, try to integrate your recreation time, try to integrate all the different relationships and social interactions that you have to have, and try to integrate all of that in such a way that it actually becomes a contributing factor to spiritual life. And when you do that, instead of compartmentalizing, you integrate, then you actually find that, yes, there's actually a lot of time in life like that. The fourth sutra that I want to give you is a very practical one, which is get it to 80%. This is not shastric, this is simply my experience. That in life, whenever you're doing a task, generally what happens is the amount of effort that it takes you to get it from 80% to perfect takes so much energy, takes so much time, that if you use that energy somewhere else, you could actually do something far more beneficial and useful. So sometimes what happens in our life is we get into this perfectionist mentality, and what happens is we become so focused on doing one thing and bringing it to a certain level that what happens is that while that's very noble and very good, we end up missing out on many other things we could be doing in our life. So generally what I found in my life is that the trick is, if you can get something to 80%, that's good enough. Because the extra effort that you're going to take to get it to 100 may mean that you neglect other things that are much more valuable. So this is a big problem in life, that what happens is we become tunneled vision into one thing. And becoming tunnel vision into one thing, we're not juggling all the other aspects which are important in our life. And so knowing when to stop in one activity and say, okay, now I need to focus on other things, that is a great art. Another one is that another sutra is that what we tend to do is we prioritize the easy and the enjoyable and demote the important and the sometimes inconvenient. So therefore, sometimes what you need to start doing, sometimes we think like, I'll just do the easy stuff, like, because that gives you a sense that I've achieved something in my life, like at least I've done something. But what often happens is that we don't focus on that which is important. And so don't just do the easy things, but do the important things. Don't just do the urgent things that will give you an immediate benefit or will give you an immediate relief, but do the things that will have long-lasting impact. And therefore another sutra of time management is to know what to prioritize in what order. So yes, I think these are sutras of time management. Maybe I could give you even more. Maybe I'll give you one last one, which is perhaps the most important, which is that when someone tells me I don't have time, then often I share with them and remind myself at the same time that some things are so important. It's not about having time, but it's about making time. And so sometimes we ask the wrong questions. We ask the question, but what if I don't have time? Actually, it's the wrong question. Because the question we should be asking is, this is so important, how will I be able to make time? That's the question we should ask. In other words, once our heart reaches the goal, then what you will find is it's much easier to make the practical arrangements to pursue that goal. But what's often happened with us is that our heart hasn't reached the goal. Like one man, once he wanted to climb a mountain, so he checked into the hotel. In the morning he came down and he was walking out of the reception, and he looked out of the window and there was a snowstorm. No one was there, but he just continued walking towards the door, and then the receptionist shouted out and said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to go and climb to the peak." The receptionist said, "But there's a snowstorm, there's a weather warning. Don't you see there's nobody out there? Do you really think you're going to make it to the top?" And he looked at the receptionist and he said, "My heart has already reached the peak. Therefore, for my body to reach is simply a formality." In other words, once one's heart reaches the goal, then one will become empowered with all the intelligence, all the understanding of how to actually practically reach that goal. And so these are some things that we have to think about, because practically the biggest problem that most of us say is that we don't have time. I want to be Krishna conscious, but I don't have time. But actually, time can expand, and time can be your best friend, and time can actually work to your favor as long as we follow and respect the time that we have been given. And if we utilize it properly, then you'll find actually there's nothing stopping us. So yes, these are some thoughts I wanted to share with you about expanding time. I won't expand the time of this lecture too much more, but I'll open it up to all of you to see what questions you may have, what concerns you may have about time, or any related topics, or any questions that anyone would like to ask. Yes, so if anyone would like to begin. Is there a question there? Yes, okay.
Maybe practical. Like you have explained that time expands when we have a desire to do spiritual activities. Does it also help us when we have a desire to do material activities? Because it might not be spiritualized, but again, that are helpful for us, our day-to-day life. So it's a practical question.
So does Krishna also help to expand time when it comes to our material responsibilities or our material duties? Remember, it comes back to the other sutra that I was mentioning, that don't compartmentalize your life. In other words, there is no material part of a devotee's life. Even their seeming material duties are also part of their spiritual endeavor and their spiritual journey. And so, if you learn how to connect all of your material duties to Krishna, then in Krishna's eyes, those are not material anymore, they're spiritual. And therefore, yes, definitely, Krishna is on your side. Krishna wants you to succeed. So why will Krishna not provide for you what you require to go back home, back to Godhead? Krishna says in the Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate. I preserve what you have and I carry what you lack. So that means Krishna will preserve the time that you have if you respect it, and He will also carry what you lack. If you feel like the only one thing which is holding me back in my life is I don't have time, then we just have to go back and look at how we're dealing with time, and Krishna will definitely intervene to help.
And actually it is not for sense gratification, but as a part of our duty, we need to do that.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Yes, other questions, if anyone has? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for this wonderful class. Often we see time, sometimes we utilize it for ourselves, and time is also demanded by others as a community, as a social being, How do we balance between having time for ourselves and also at the same time social needs?
Yeah. So we need time for ourselves and we need to give time to others. You see, even when we're giving time to others, we don't need to see that this is taking away from our spiritual development. Giving time to others means serving others. Giving time to others means being selfless. Giving time to others means putting my own agenda to one side and trying to genuinely contribute to the life of someone else. And when you spend your time in that selfless way, then you become also invested with more and more. So the first thing I want to say is that giving time to others is actually a beautiful part of our own self-development. The most boring life begins and ends with I, me, and mine. If you want a formula for a boring life, that's the formula. A life which begins and ends with me. So we live to serve. And that means we serve in community, we serve others, we serve the family, we serve Prabhupada's movement, we serve the community. That's what ultimately makes our life meaningful. Because it's there that we exchange love. But yes, you do also need to ensure that you have time for yourself. Once there was a husband and the wife, so the husband said to the wife, what's your priorities? Sorry, the wife said to the husband, what's your priorities? So he said, number 1, the children. Number 2, you. Number 3, me. So she was very happy. And then he looked at her and he said, what's your priorities? And she said, number 1, me. Number 2, the children. Number 3, you. And then she explained, she said, no, my priority is me, because I want to bring the best of myself to the children. I want to bring the best of myself to you. And therefore, time spent alone with Krishna. I was just messaging His Grace Burijan Prabhu yesterday, and we were talking about his seminar, Alone with Krishna. So that's very nice. Spend some time alone with Krishna. And as you spend that time alone with Krishna, then you become more empowered to give. This is the rhythm of life. You have to breathe in and you breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So, again, balance. And as you spend more time with yourself, genuinely becoming inspired in Krishna consciousness, it actually fuels your desire to be with others and serve others. And the amazing thing is that when you serve others, the mercy that you draw from that will mean that when you then go back and you're alone with Krishna, you'll actually really be able to connect, because you come to Krishna with something, some service. So they dynamically go together. So we don't need to see that they are opposed. They actually are very much integrated. See, I'll give you another example. When Mahaprabhu comes to this world, then he has an internal purpose and an external purpose. The internal purpose is to experience the love of Srimati Radharani. And the external purpose is to spread Krishna consciousness, we can say in simple terms. Now, if you look at Mahaprabhu's activities throughout his life, what he does is he expertly fulfills both things at the same time. I'll give you an example. Mahaprabhu is at Rath Yatra. So what happens at Rath Yatra? He's having this deep internal experience of Srimati Radharani, who's at Kurukshetra, seeing Krishna after a long time, wanting to take Krishna back to Vrindavan. But at the same time, while he's having that deep experience, there's a huge kirtan and he's preaching to the whole world, because the whole world comes to Jagannath Puri at the time of Rath Yatra. Isn't it amazing? He does both things in the same. Or for example, Mahaprabhu takes sannyas. So sannyas allows him to intensify his Radha Bhav. Why? Because Srimati Radharani and the gopis, they are vyavasayatmika buddhi. They can only see Krishna. So when he takes sannyas, it's like he becomes similarly, the same way, focused like that. But at the same time, when he takes sannyas, he begins traveling and he begins preaching, because that's what sannyasis do. And so he simultaneously fulfills the desire to preach. So like this, Mahaprabhu shows us how our internal life and our external responsibilities can actually be very much integrated, and not just integrated, but they actually feed and support each other, like that.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. And I have a question. When you were mentioning the first sutra, when time is utilized, time expands. There you said that Krishna, like when Krishna sees that we are not wasting time, then Krishna gives more time. What does it mean?
So what does it mean that Krishna gives more time? What Krishna will begin doing in your life is he will make arrangements for you to be freed up. Sometimes you have that experience, isn't it? Like you really want to have so many things to do, you want to do it, and then one devotee just comes along and says, don't worry about that, I'll take care of that. Boom, opened up time. Or say, for example, a responsibility which you had, which normally takes so long, somehow or other by Krishna's mercy, it just becomes fulfilled and it's no longer there. Boom, a whole amount of time opened up. So Krishna, he can move around anything in any way. But Krishna gives us things when he knows that we will utilize it and take advantage of it in the right way. And so it's incredible to think how much Srila Prabhupada was able to do, because he never wasted time. Therefore, his capacity increased and Krishna gave him all facility to do a kind of insane amount of devotional service. So yes, like that, we have to be confident that Krishna moves everything and he can change it all around.
Krishna Maharaj, I had a quick question about, you were mentioning about priorities and keeping them straight. My question was, sometimes when we have tasks in the day, they may become a little bit overwhelming. In a sense that if I have a lot of tasks in the day, when it becomes overwhelming, I may not do any of them. Yeah. So, do you have anything on that? How to not let it become overwhelming and
Yeah, so when we have a lot of tasks in the day, then sometimes it becomes so overwhelming, you're like, I'm not even going to try to get through all of this. Therefore, the art of life is to try to break things down into something that's more conceivable and manageable. And so whenever you have a big task to do, the trick is to try to break it down. And when you break it down and you have markers along the way towards that point that you want to reach, then as you see that you're meeting each marker, then it gives you more confidence to say, like, let me carry on, let me carry on. And so I think it's just a matter of doing that, like taking something which is very, very big, and then breaking it down into something which is very, very manageable. And also to say that if I can't get there, then what can I do? What's within my grasp now? Like Krishna even does that in the Bhagavad Gita, no? He says like, always think of me. And if you can't do that, follow the regulative principles. And then if you can't do that, then at least work for me. And if you can't do that, then at least offer some charity. In other words, what can you do immediately within your power to walk towards that? And when you do that, then you'll find. It's like when you go to Vrindavan, like in January, like that, then it's very, very misty, isn't it? So it's like you have no idea, you can't see like 100 meters in front of you, you have no idea, like I can't see even the destination where I need to reach. But you can see 2 meters in front of you. And so what do? You walk 2 meters in front of you. And when you walk 2 meters in front of you, then what happens? The next 2 meters become revealed. And then when you walk those 2 meters, the next 2 meters become revealed. And so we do what we can, which is within our grasp now, and we carry on walking forward. And then, eventually, before we know it, we've reached our destination. Like that. I don't know if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, for inspiring us since last couple of days with your classes and your reflections. The question I have is the integration part. That kind of understood, but sometimes when we make these blocks of time and then we try to integrate Krishna consciousness with all our activities, the quality that we have may be lacking, or most of the times it's not the one that we expect it to be, the quality of the activity that we are doing while integrating this. So if you start your day with your chanting, your hearing, reading, all the morning program, you go work, you do work, you take care of your kids, you come back, you do again some kind of spiritual activity, you take prasadam, you sleep. Everything is good, like you made a block of time, you prioritize.
But the quality
things.
of it.
Yeah, the quality of things is really a big concern from my personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're doing it, we're fitting it all in, but because our mind, our attention is splayed over so many different things, we find that we may not be fully present in doing what we're meant to be doing. And so although it seems as though we're fitting everything in, what is actually the quality of that practice? It's definitely a difficulty. Therefore, what we encourage people to do, devotees, is there should be a day in the week, a day in the month, and a month in the year when you disconnect. I don't know if you can do a month in a year. When desire deepens, capacity increases. Have the desire. But you know, when you take a day out in the month and you leave your phone behind and you just go somewhere and you just, with no other responsibility, nothing else on your mind, you just try to have that focused practice. Then what happens is when you come back the next day to do your daily practice, then your daily practice begins to look a little different. There is Nitya Kriya and Naimittika Kriya. Nitya Kriya means what you do every day, and then there is what you do occasionally. And sometimes what you do occasionally helps you to upgrade what you do on a daily basis. And so, but it's challenging, because have you ever had that experience where sometimes you just have free time and it opens up and you can actually just read and chant and you're kind of like, what am I going to do now? Quick, give me something to do. And we actually come face to face with our own lack of absorption. I used to do that. I used to go to Vrindavan for 1 month in January after the book marathon. And I remember the first year I went, it was almost like, now I'm going to Vrindavan and that's it. I'm just going to hear and chant and no management, no responsibilities. And after 2 days, I was like, I need to go back to London, This is like, what am I going to do here for a whole month? This is like so difficult. And it's in those moments that we come face to face with our own superficiality, and then we close our eyes and we try to connect and we try to find Krishna. And then when we find Krishna, and it comes and it goes and it's hard and you have to struggle. But that's when our spiritual practice becomes more substantial. So I would say we have to challenge ourselves by also being alone with Krishna. And we have to make that time. And some things are so important, it's not about having time, it's about making time. Because what will we bring? What we will bring to all of our duties, what will we bring to our service, what will we bring to our spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, if we don't have much inside of us? We won't bring that much substance. We may bring a lot of practical things, but we may not bring much substance. So that substance must be invested in. So try to have concentrated times. Yes.
Thank you for this, telling us how to utilize the time. I have a habit of procrastinating. So how do I come out of it?
Join the club. So you have a habit of procrastinating. So how do we overcome that? So first you have to diagnose what is the reason you're procrastinating. There are classic reasons why people procrastinate. The first thing is that we procrastinate because the thing that we're trying to achieve hasn't actually captured our imagination enough. Your why is not strong enough and deep enough. Sometimes we're aiming for something, but that thing that we're aiming for, it hasn't excited us enough. And therefore we procrastinate. But when something is exciting to us, when something is very, very, we feel it to be very valuable, something that we must reach, then we don't want to waste time. We want to let's get this going, let's get this moving. So if you find in your life that you're procrastinating, the first cause could be that we don't have something exciting enough. They say the best alarm clock in the world is purpose. Because when your eyes open in the morning and you have a purpose that's captured your imagination, then you'll jump out of bed. It's interesting, like oversleeping. Of course, some days we oversleep, we're just tired. But if you're constantly oversleeping, it's something to think about. Because if sleeping is more exciting than being awake, then it probably means your waking life is not that exciting. Therefore, you find that highly motivated people in the world, like I was saying, they actually slept very less. I think Einstein was only sleeping 2 hours a day or something like that. So the first thing is, do you have a goal that has captured your imagination? We procrastinate because sometimes the goal isn't exciting. But sometimes we do have an exciting goal. But what happens is we don't know the steps. We haven't mapped out the steps towards that goal. And therefore we procrastinate. Because we know what we want to do, but we don't know the next step that's going to take me there. And so we're kind of like, I don't know what this journey looks like. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. So we don't do it. Therefore, we just waste time procrastinating because we don't have a clear idea. If I do this, then it will do this, then I can do this, then I'll get there. So the second reason why we don't, why we procrastinate is because we don't have a plan. But sometimes you may have a goal that excites you. You may have a plan of how to get there, but then what we don't have is the environment around us, the people around us who encourage us to do that. Everyone needs around them a supportive environment. Otherwise, we tend to just degrade into laziness and lethargy. And so if we're procrastinating, a third problem could be that we don't have the people around us who are pushing us and inspiring us. Everyone needs that kind of habitat around them. So these are, I guess, some reasons why people procrastinate. And usually it's a combination of all three. Nothing that amazing that you're going for, and not a clear plan of how you're going to get there, and not the supportive environment to then begin making that journey. Okay. Yes.
For this wonderful class. I was just thinking, just a comment, a small comment, is that how Srila Prabhupada gave us this morning program, which is such a wonderful way to internalize. Like when you start the day with the morning program and then chanting so many rounds and reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and in any circumstance when you do that, whether you're doing it at home or in the temple, it seems like you can find your base. You can find the way to internalize much better than on days when you don't do it.
Yeah.
And this becomes a sanctuary for busy people, busy moms especially, and also when they are, sharing that with their children. For me, it was like that, like I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam with my children every morning. I found myself, and with that busy day, in spite of that, when I did that, then that was my time when I actually was able to internalize and find that connection. So, and sometimes it would go like more than an hour, like 2 hours, and stuff. So, I found that sanctuary there.
Yeah,
so
the
it
morning
seems like
time.
Prabhupada has given us such a wonderful way to internalize for busy people.
Yeah. No, it's such a nice point. Yeah, the morning program is the simple things. The other day we were remembering His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and we were remembering that point of how he just did the basic things, but he took them so serious right till the final days. And especially one of those things was the morning program. So yeah, for sure. And even the world is catching up on that now, like people write books like the 5 a.m. Club, It's like I was looking at that book some months ago at the airport. And it's amazing. It's like they bring all the scientific research and all of that. And this is what we've known all along, that if you rise with the sun, if you rise before the sun, then you double your productivity, you increase your energy, you triple your creativity, and you just start the day with your eternal identity. See, the identity that you create at the very beginning of the day is the identity that you'll stay with throughout the day. So when we begin with the morning program, then we begin with that identity, connecting with our first identity, which is that I'm a servant of Krishna. And then we're much more able to interact with the world throughout the day from that identity. So yeah, by all means, whatever that morning program looks like for you, that is essential. Such a nice. Yes. Yes, sure.
This is from Govinda Mohini Mataji. I find that phone, screen time, social media are big time wasters. How can I not fall prey to these time wasting activities?
Yeah. Someone once sent me a message, get off Facebook and get your face into a book. So, okay. Try. Yeah, we have to create boundaries, no? I don't think we're living in a time where now you can't, the world has brainwashed us into using social media, and you can't be a normal functioning human being without being on social media. It's practically like that now. So if you're one of those rare individuals who can extricate yourself from the entanglement of the web of social media, then all glories. And for most of us that may not be able to, I think the most important thing is just to create a boundary. To say before this time, after this time, between these times, I just don't go there. And when you create boundaries, then what happens is you create headspace. But what happens if you don't create boundaries, then we're constantly, our headspace gets hijacked by all of these things. So I think the most important thing is to create some boundaries. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the really nice lecture. I really like your points, 2 points in particular about the analogy of dying like a river or dying like a moth. I thought that was really poetic. And also your first sutra about how utility or time expands according to how we utilize it. Reminds me of a quote from Seneca that everybody has enough time if they use it. Yeah. My question is about how in the course of time in our lives, there are these these landmarks, these large events, it's like a common term now, quarter life crisis, and like the more well-known midlife crisis, that just come within due course of time. It appears to happen to everybody in the course of their life. How do we navigate these large large events?
You mean these
these
existential
crises.
kind of confusion times, existential confusion, yeah. Yeah, so in the world now we are experiencing that sometimes people go through these kind of crisis times in their life, confusion times, when they begin to think who am I, where am I, what am I, where am I going, what have I done? Someone once said that to me. He said, how old are you? I said, 43. He said, you're in the zone. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is when you get midlife crisis. I guess, okay. Hopefully it's all right. So actually, if you think about it, Arjun had also I don't know if it was a midlife crisis, but he definitely had a crisis. Even Brahmaji, you can say, his definitely wasn't a midlife crisis. His was right at the beginning, where he was not sure, who am I, where am I, what am I supposed to do? So actually it's interesting. Existential confusion is not a bad thing. Existential confusion can lead to two things. Either it can lead to existential crisis, or existential confusion can lead to existential awakening. So actually confusion is not a bad thing. We think in the world whenever we have a doubt, whenever we have a confusion, whenever we're not quite sure, the world tells us that's wrong, that's bad, quickly deal with it. But actually it's good. Because confusion is the time that makes you question. Confusion is the time which makes you challenge. Confusion is the time which makes you actually go deeper into your why. And once you've established that, if you get the right guidance, And if you navigate those times with spiritual wisdom as Arjun did, because what did Arjun do when he had his existential crisis? Shishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. He came to Krishna and he said, I'm completely confused. The Sanskrit words are dharma samudha, which means I'm confused about my duty. Existential confusion. And what did he do? He came to Krishna to get it clarified. So, what I would say is when you go through these periods, they're actually very good, although they're uncomfortable. Because these are the periods which help you to actually think more deeply. Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, where am I going? Am I really achieving what I set out to achieve? And when we face those doubts and questions, then it actually upgrades our life. So they say sometimes you have to have a material breakdown to have a spiritual breakthrough. Material breakdowns are often the gateway to spiritual breakthroughs. So it's like that. So, it's good to be confused sometimes. As long as you've got good wisdom and good teachers who can help you to clarify that. The most dangerous phrase in the English language is, we've always done it this way. That's very dangerous. We should always challenge ourselves. Is there a better way to do it? And existential confusion is the time to ask that question. Good luck.
Just on the topic of integrating our life with into diving deeper into Krishna consciousness, as we have maybe a morning routine that we go through, or whatever sadhana that we have throughout the day, and then usually immediately you're going into work or you're going into school, and then after that at some point you just become very mentally stimulated or mentally overloaded, or just you want to kind of take a break,
just wind down.
Yeah, just wind down. And then oftentimes that can lead to a state of lethargy, where you just don't want to do anything anymore and you just unplugged throughout the day. So how can we combat that so that after that state of I wind down, you can pick it back up again?
Yeah, that's why it's so important to align yourself with the energy of the universe. So why does Krishna spend 100 of the 700 verses of the Gita talking about the three modes of nature? So that we can understand how we can start to synergize ourselves with the energies around us for our benefit. So we know that there are certain times of the day in which ignorance is pervading more. We know that there are certain times of the day in which goodness is pervading. And therefore, why would we try to swim against the current? When the times when you're naturally trying to wind down, that's the time when you should physically rest the body, And when the body is rested, the early morning, when the mind is clear, when the atmosphere is conducive, that's the time when you connect. So I think the first thing is try to work with the energies of the material nature. Instead of trying to chant your rounds at 9 p.m. It's going to be an uphill struggle. It's going to be difficult, and then it's going to feel like a chore. And so yes, it's about learning at what times you can engage yourself in the relevant ways to give yourself the best chance. So, say for example, when I'm traveling now, when I'm in cars and when I'm on the plane, I know what I just use that time to answer emails. And then when I'm in one place and it's quiet and the atmosphere is conducive, I'm not going to answer emails. I want to read Shastra. In other words, you utilize the right time for the right thing, whereas we tend to do it all in a mixed up way. So I think it's, And then ultimately there's your real life and there's the real limitations, and you can't always engineer it perfectly like you want to. And then in those times you just make the best of what you have. But as much as possible we have to take charge of our lives and try to create the life that we want, because if we don't make the decision to do that, then the world will make the decisions for you. So you have to make the decisions. I don't know if that helps, but okay. I don't know how we're doing for time. No pun intended. Expanding. Okay.
Right here.
All right. Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for this lecture. I just had a question. Like, whenever you do more service, like you get time, but then like your mind distracts you, and then like you go to do something else, or like you utilize that window for something else materialistic. Like, how do we control our mind in that like time?
Wow. Come and join us in the Brahmacharya ashram. Teach you. So what you're saying is that when you get a certain window of time to do service, so like time has been given to you to do service, but then you end up doing like material things in that time. So how do we not do that? Is that your question? How do we make sure we don't do that? How do we control the mind when the mind wants to do something which wasn't meant for that time? Oh my goodness, Hare Krishna. You see, again, we have to realize why what we're doing why it's an important thing to do. When you know why something is important, when you know the reason why it's valuable to do it, when you're convinced that if I do this, it will help me in my life, then what happens is you're much less likely to neglect that and do something else. So oftentimes, the reason why we don't do something and we do something else is because the thing that we neglect, we don't actually value it. We're like, I don't know like why this is so important, how it's going to help me in my life. I don't think it really is going to help me in my life anyway, then I'll just do this instead. See what I mean? So the idea is that every activity we should understand what benefit it's going to give us. And when you know the benefit, then you're much likely to do it. Much more likely to do it. Does that help? All right.
Maharaj, my question is related to your answer related to Bharam Prasad Prabhu's question on procrastination. So you said like if you improve your why for doing something, you'll inherently like try not to procrastinate, right? So my question is like for long-term projects, like something that's like not like immediately tomorrow, it's coming like a little further away. So for things like that, I honestly sometimes don't want to do it because it's not there. So how do I improve my why for something I quite honestly don't want to do?
Sorry, I didn't catch it. Like, so something that's far away, I didn't get the link. So like something that's far away that you're trying to achieve in the future?
No, like a due date that's like far away, like something that's happening like a month later, it's due. And like, I really don't want to be working on it right now because I have more like tasks to do in the moment. Okay. How do I find the why to break it up into like smaller pieces throughout the month?
Okay. So the why is something which is very far away. And how do you get the motivation to do it now on the journey there? Is that the question?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll say something, and if I'm totally off the mark, then you can ask someone else. who's more qualified than me. Yeah. See, one thing is that in our life, what we should try to do is not just see the achievement of an activity, but try to see the achievement in the process towards that goal. Okay, let me phrase that better. That wasn't very good. Let me try and express myself in a better way. Sometimes you're trying to achieve this. And what it is that we only feel the reward of that or the benefit of that or the value of that once we're there. But what actually in Krishna consciousness or actually in anything you're doing, the benefit is actually being given to us at every step of that journey. So it's not that only when you reach that place, you're somehow deriving the benefit of that thing. As you engage yourself appropriately on the journey towards there, you're already getting the benefits of that thing. Because in Krishna consciousness, it's not about the goal, it's not about the result, but it's about the endeavor and the effort and the intention and the attention that you put into getting there. And so as we realize that more and more, like say for example, your exams, we tend to think of the success of exams as the results. But the success of the exams is also in the daily time that you spend revising for those exams. Because it's actually in that you're finding the real development. It's actually in that you're changing yourself. It's actually in that you're fulfilling your duty. And it's actually that which is transformational. And so it's really not about the end. It's really about the journey towards that and the moment-to-moment application that one has. So I don't know, is that kind of addressing? Yeah. Or were you just being nice?
Like situation I have right now is
okay,
I have
now
some notes.
He's actually going to confess what's really going on. Okay, tell us.
Like I have some notes that are due in a while. So
notes?
Notes. You have to take notes on the thing, which I'm planning on breaking apart. But the thing is, it's like we were learning about Hinduism, and it's just fully on impersonal beliefs. And I don't know. I don't really want to take. It's like I'm forced to write something wrong. So
tell the teacher, Mayavadi Bhashya Sunila Voya Sarvanash. I can't do this. Everything will be lost. Yeah, sorry. Carry on. Sorry, I'm just joking.
Yeah, that's basically my situation.
Yeah, so you don't have the motivation to really do it. Gopal Hari Prabhu studied all this stuff. Tell us what's the answer. How did you study all of these things in your academic career which didn't resonate with your deepest devotional aspirations?
Maharaj, Badrinath Maharaj actually once said that being as academic is a very nice thing. It's a good fortune. You can use it in Krishna service, but it's also a great burden. It's a great burden to study these things that they don't directly lead to Krishna. They're just dry, but we do it maybe just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard Prakashananda Saraswati for a few weeks, also Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, just so we can know what they're thinking, so that eventually then you can counter them. So you can learn those you can study them, so that but simultaneously find the counter arguments that the acharyas are giving, so that the next time you're faced with them, you know how to answer them from our acharyas. Maybe this is something that might be helpful, but yes.
Good luck. And remember, on the journey there, just the discipline, the mind control, the character, those qualities will stay with you And you'll utilize those qualities in many other things. Like sometimes devotees want to leave their studies and join the ashram. Sometimes it happens. So they want to like just terminate their studies and then join the ashram. And generally what we tell them is don't do that. Because we say that if you're kind of irresponsible in your studies, if you don't have that kind of dedication to just see it through and just like, then what will happen is it's very likely that in your spiritual endeavors, you'll start doing the same kind of thing. You'll just be like, oh no, I can't be bothered. And then that's not, So they say in the world, how you do anything is how you do everything. So that's the point that I'm making. Like with your studies, we think of it as the benefits coming when I get the result. But the benefit of it is coming day to day when you apply yourself, that's molding you into a different type of person. Okay. All right, so I don't know, yes, okay. Should we?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. We might have heard these time management sessions, part of corporate or school, but really appreciated you bringing your decades of your personal experience, how to apply them in Krishna consciousness. Very beautiful and inspiring. Thank you. I just want to bring that point about get to 80%. I struggle with that probably more than 80% of my day. When there is love, that attention to details, and when we want to serve to the best. Though I have a materialistic perfection tendency, I'm trying to bring in that and how to doubt.
Use it in a devotional way.
Yeah. But as you have rightly said, sometimes it's just so consuming. For example, writing an article or something, or cleaning the temple or home. You can go to any extent. You can literally spend your 24 hours a day and still it won't be done, ever reach that perfection. So just want to just hear from you, how do we bring that?
Yeah, people often ask me this whenever I make this point, non-shastric point, and just to reinforce that. Make it to 80%. They always ask me this point, but shouldn't we be trying to do everything with detail, like to the best, like Krishna gets the best? So yes, I think it's not stereotype. Like I was just talking about Mother Kalangana and the sweets that she used to make for Krishna. So she would hand paint every single sweet. And every single sweet took about, 5 minutes to hand paint, like a sweet like this. So I don't think I would come in and tell her, Mataji, just get it to 80%. I was like, Krishna would probably throw a thunderbolt on me if I said that, I think there are just some very elevated devotional aspirations and personalities who do that, and who just really do the best. I'm just talking generally in our life, we have many responsibilities and many things we have to do for Krishna. And often in the name of, I'm trying to do this in the best I can for Krishna, what we're actually doing is we're kind of just dodging other things that we really should be doing in the name of like, no, I got to get this right. And so it's not actually done in necessarily the most devotional mentality to try and get it to 100%. So my point is that we should just, we have limited time. All of you are busy. You have so many responsibilities. So try to maximize what you can do in all of the different areas that you have to juggle. And then now and again, yes, there may be in certain areas of your life a service for Krishna from which you just do with your heart and you just like say, no, 100%. This one, 100%. That's very beautiful. But sometimes that 100% is an excuse or just a diversion from doing what we should really be putting attention in elsewhere. Does that make sense? All right. I think it's been a long time, isn't it? I think it's been everyone's been saying a long time. So I think we can end here. Thank you so much. Yes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.